How much did your military experience shape who you are as an athlete, as a Paralympian?
Being part of a team. I mean, in the military, I had a platoon and they were my team. Being part of something, bigger than yourself. I mean, the Paralympics, yes, it's an individual sport that I'm in, but I'm so much part of Team USA. The camaraderie, hard work. I mean, in the military, like you had jobs you had to get done and you just did it. Like you didn't question it, you just did it. And it's little things like, being on time. Like for me, 5 minutes early is on time. Like being late is just, so it's like the little things like that. Like my coach asked me to do something and I'm just gonna do it. If I don't do it, then something is really like off in my day or in my life, like not to do it. I think those things kind of, parallel the military a little bit.
Hi, I'm Chris Waddell. Welcome to Living It, the podcast where we join experts in the experience of being human. Be bold. Say yes to adventure. Say yes to living it. So welcome to Chris Waddell Living It, where we talk with experts in the experience of being human. Today we have Melissa Stockwell, who has a Purple Heart, has a Bronze Star. She was a Paralympian, part of the American sweep in 2016, the first Para-Traithlon. So she was bronze medalist in that, three-time Para-Traithlon world champion. I mean, she has done a whole bunch of different things that are absolutely amazing, and we're going to get into it. The thing that we're getting to right now is that in a week, she will run the Boston Marathon. Melissa, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Yes, you are. Yes, you've done so much for the sport yourself. It's just great to chat with you, and thanks for having me on.
I know. And I'm trying to think if we've actually met in person, like in passing. I think we have.
I feel the same. I feel like we have at some point, or I've heard your name multiple times from time to time. So that could be it too, but it's possible that we've met in person.
So started as a swimmer,
Yep.
went into Para-Triathlon. Now you're going into the marathon. You've run one marathon to start off. I did read that was 6+ hours, which is a ridiculously long day, but you're also a triathlete. So that long days are relative. What made you want to do Boston?
Boston. So first off, it's such an iconic race. But then there's a few reasons. So late last year, before the Tokyo Paralympics, I got into a bike accident and I broke my back. I ended up fracturing my back and couldn't really run for 2 to 3 months. And it was hard because I'm a triathlete and running is like one of the things I love to do. So when I was able to get back up after the games or start running again, I mean, I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. And I thought, why don't we like do something with this? Like, why, if I'm loving it so much, why don't we just like see what I can do with it? So I had Boston in my mind, just knowing that it was an early season race. Obviously it's this iconic race, and talked to my coach about it. And he kind of gave me the green light, my triathlon coach that is, and decided it would be a great way to get some early season fitness. And here we are a week out, and I'm so excited.
Now, we've got to back up just a little bit because, so you were the first American woman to lose a limb in war. Is that true?
That is what I am told. Yes.
That is what you're told. Okay. So that's what I read and what you're told. So it sounds like we're in agreement.
Okay.
So you were also the first Iraqi vet to make the Paralympics 4 years after losing your limb. But we're getting to this because you're talking about running. So can you describe how you run?
Yes. So I have a prosthetic running leg. It's like a specific activity specific prosthetic leg. I have it right here, actually. It is like
it just happens to be hanging out.
It happens to be hanging out. It's got this like J-shaped, it's kind of like this carbon fiber piece that looks like a J. Some people have seen them. Well, at this point, hopefully most, as I dropped it. At this point, most people have probably seen it at the Paralympic Games. It's, all runners have a similar type of shaped leg, but it's this carbon piece that has a little bit of spring to it. I am an above the knee amputee, so I do not have a running joint. I'm a pretty short amputee, which basically means I have a very short part of my femur left, about 4 inches. So I have tried running with the knee. It's not for me. You can fall. It takes a lot more energy consumption. So without
It's sort of like a computer controlled knee, right? I mean,
no, it's just like a free swing knee, but
it would just be free swing. Okay.
yeah, when you run with it, the hard part being is that unless you land with that free swing knee fully extended, you are going to fall. And because I have such a short lever arm of that 4 inches, the energy it takes for me to get it straight every step is large. It's like energy consuming. So I have chosen to run without a knee joint, which basically means I swing my leg out to the side as I run, like I circumduct it around to the side, which seems like this really unnatural and strange and unproductive way to run. But honestly, like I've been doing it now for years and years, and it's just how I know to run it. The hip joint is typically not an issue. It's kind of that ball and socket that can kind of have that movement. The lower back can sometimes hurt, but it could do that with their knee joint as well. So it's how I've chosen to run. It looks strange. Some people wonder why I don't put a knee in there, but for me, it works.
For you, it works. It looks like, I mean, from the outside, sometimes it looks like it could be uncomfortable. You're running, I mean, so off of your sound leg, you come really far off the toe of the sound leg as you're coming into, and then coming around with the prosthetic to land on the prosthetic and then come back. What is that like? Because it looks like it's a lot of work and you're signed up for 26.2 miles.
I mean, yeah, it's a lot of work, but I mean, running 26.2 miles with 2 legs is a lot of work too. So
good point.
I think because I like, for me, it's just normal. I mean, I've run like that with my running leg for so many years. Like it's truly an extension of me. That is how I run. It is how I learned to run. And I mean, to me, it's just get out there and run. There's really, whether is it a lot of energy consumption? Absolutely. But at the same time, I am missing my leg above the knee. So there's going to be a lot of energy consumed anyway. So yeah, I mean, it just works. Yeah. And 26.2 miles, that's a long way for anybody. So I'm just, how lucky that I get to put my running leg on and go do it.
How about specifics of Boston? So Boston is a unique course, right? It's point to point from Hopkinton to Boston. It is slightly downhill, maybe more than slightly downhill at times at the beginning, and then you get into the hills, and then you're finishing in Boston. Do you do any part of that better than any other part?
No, I mean, obviously the hills are, I mean, they're a challenge for anyone, right? Like for me with the prosthetic, I probably have to come up onto my toe a little bit more to get that clearance. My cadence will speed up, like I'll take much shorter steps. But I don't think, I mean, given all of it, like, I don't think a hill is any harder for me than it is for anybody else. I mean, I just happen to have a prosthetic leg. So, but downhill, I probably don't get as much out of the downhills maybe as anybody, as a typical able-bodied runner with 2 legs. I just can't propel myself that fast down a hill. So the disadvantages to the uphill, they don't really equal out with the advantages to the downhill. Wind will play a big factor. If there is a headwind, trying to bring my prosthetic leg through makes a big, it makes quite a difference.
Why is that?
It's just the prosthetic leg, I'm swinging it around. It's like the blade is kind of like this flat, 3 inch, like 3 to 4 inch, like flat piece of carbon fiber. So it's fighting the wind every step you take. So it just kind of adds more resistance than I would say than my other leg. So, I mean, yeah, there's little things that maybe add these, disadvantages, but I mean, I know that going into it, it's not gonna, I mean, I just want to do the best I can do.
Right. No. I'm just thinking, is there something particular that plays out for you? Like, as a wheelchair racer, the downhills for us are generally pretty good,
Sure.
You can use those downhills. The uphills aren't quite as good, where there are times where it's steep, where you're not even, where you can go slower than some runners if it's a really steep hill.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's just looking at that. Does that asymmetry, if there's a tailwind,
I would say perfect race weather for me would be like high 40s, sun, no rain, and a tailwind. Can we like make that happen? So the other thing with the prosthetic is the hotter it is, so sweat builds up in my prosthetic. So if it's hot, like this year, I don't think it's going to be an issue, but like if it was 80 degrees and I'm starting at 950, I will probably have to take my leg on and off every like 6 to 7 miles to take it off, wipe the sweat off and put it back on, or else it rubs in the wrong areas. It starts to like slip a little bit, and I just run way better after I've wiped that sweat off. So, this year, looks like it's going to be, mid 50s with overcast, and, so maybe I have to take my leg off 3 or 4 times versus like 6 or 7 times if it was really hot.
And so it's a suction, right? That keeps your legs on.
No, I have a liner. I'm headed on a run after this. That's why I had this all on, but I have this liner that has a pin on the end of it, and the pin kind of ratchets into the hole on the end of a socket. So it kind of like sits in there and it kind of ratchets in. So that's how it holds on. So the liner kind of builds up with a bunch of sweat builds up in it. It starts to slip, and that's where the rubbing, and I just don't run as well with it. When it's
right. So that's essentially the liners, like that suction where it kind of is,
is
holding you in, and then you're attached with the pin. What kind of time are you looking to run? Just not to make you nervous or anything.
No,
but you got a week, all the work's done.
I'll put it out there. It's fine. So it's funny, when I first signed up for the race, I was like, don't care about time. I ran New York, however long ago, like hardly trained. It was miserable. I was out there for, almost 6 hours and 30 minutes. Like, I can't believe I'm admitting that. So I signed up for Boston being like, I'm just going to beat that time and like redeem that performance. But then as an athlete, like you start training and you're like, oh, okay, like maybe I do want a time goal. So it started with under 5 hours. Now, if I go under 4 hours and 30 minutes, I would be thrilled. So I would say that's my goal, 4:30.
So you did New York, you're doing Boston. Have you done a marathon as part of a triathlon as well?
I did one Ironman in 2013 in Arizona. So I've done a standalone New York marathon, the Ironman marathon in Arizona, and then it'll be this one.
So this should be relatively easy compared to the one in Arizona, right? Because
yeah, I feel like, I don't even know if you can, you can count it, but like, I don't even know if you can really count that, because it's just, you're coming off of, riding your bike for 112 miles. It's just, yeah, you count it, but it's not like, yeah, this will be my best one. I have no doubt. Yeah, given what I've done, this will be the best one.
Right. And certainly fingers crossed for a tailwind. That makes a huge difference in Boston.
For wheelchair racers, my goodness. Yeah, I can't, that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. It can be 10, 20 minutes easily.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I
would say for
sometimes
me,
even more.
Probably not 10, 20, but it could be like 5-10 minutes difference. Yeah.
For you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Last year I did, it was 2017, which was a great tailwind. And then next year was a nasty headwind, freezing rain, hypothermia. And the winners went from 118 to 146.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, that's insane. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
So yeah, so these things do happen. How much do you know about Boston, about like what to expect? How much research have you done?
I've done a good amount. Obviously the course, I don't know, I don't know it, like I can spout it out to you, but I know obviously the hills and what to look for, like the Sitco sign and the fire station, the colleges, Wesley College, Boston College. I know Heartbreak Hill. I know the first 5 miles start downhill, but everything I've heard about it, I've done most of my training on my own. I had one training run. My longest one was about almost 23 miles. For the last 8 miles, some of my teammates jumped in with me, and the motivation just to have someone there, it was like night and day. So not only will I have Carrie by my side through all of it, but the crowds, I've heard the atmosphere is just like electric, and the energy, and just, I can't wait.
So your best friend Carrie is running with you, you said?
Yep.
And there is moral support, but that's a big step in moral support. She has to run a marathon in order to do moral support now.
She does. Yeah, she's been with me through everything. I mean, she was at the Ironman, like helping me out of the water. I mean, we were both co-founders of the organization Dare to Try that we started back in Chicago. And, she's been she was in Rio with me with the USA sweep. I mean, she has been with me every step of the way. So it just makes sense for her to be there and there's no one else. To have your best friend by your side to run with, it just makes it that much better.
Do you have an agenda of what you're going to talk about along the way, or how's this going to work?
So I'm not much of a talker when I run. She is. So it kind of works out well. She talks and I just like, is what I say. But yes.
Ask her a question that has a really long answer to it.
But she also, she's one that I just typically don't talk much when I run. I'm more focused on just, the race. But she will thank every volunteer as they should be thanked. She'll thank the sky and the crowds, and it'll be great. Yeah.
Now, Dare to Try. So triathlon club that you guys started. So mission is about not labeling people for their physical ability, but rather their determination and will to succeed. Why did you go with that as a mission? Is that a personal mission for you?
Yes, I think so. I think trying to prove to myself, like after losing a leg almost 18 years ago, like instead of saying, oh, I can't do this, this, and this, but instead think about the things that I can still do. So I think it's all about, showing these athletes that have physical disabilities. How much ability is in their disability. And a lot of times you go up to someone with a disability, like spinal cord injury, wheelchair visual impairment, amputee, and you're like, hey, you want to do a triathlon? And they're like, I could never do that. Like, why would I ever want to do that? And you're like, but you can. And by providing them with the expensive adaptive equipment, coaching, training, sometimes something as simple as just getting to the starting line and watching them do this race, they cross the finish line, and like self-confidence and the self-worth is just like oozing from them. So it's not just about, we start with the triathlon, but it just carries over into all other aspects of their life as well. So it's pretty awesome.
Were you always an endurance athlete? So when you started with the swimming, this 400 meter freestyle, you broke the American record. 400 meter freestyle is not a short event. It's not something you just sort of jump into and go swim 400 meters. Then you're doing triathlons and sprint events for the Paralympics, but you've done Ironman distance as well. Now you're running a marathon. Was this a transformation? Do you lose your leg and then suddenly become an endurance athlete, or how did that work?
No, I think you lose the leg and you're like, oh, there's these things I can go try, and let's go try them and see what happens. And it's funny, like a sprint distance triathlon. It's around like an hour 20-ish minutes. And to me, that doesn't seem very endurance wise. To a sprinter who runs for 60 seconds, that's an hour 20 seems like an eternity. But to me, that doesn't really seem so much endurance. But like an Ironman, obviously, a marathon, that's all endurance. And I think it was just what I fell into. I do think the older I get, like the more endurance, like that speed just, like anyone that gets older, right? That speed like isn't there like it used to be. And the monotony of going out for 3 hours on a run, does it hurt because I'm getting older? Yes. But it's just like, I just enjoy like the simplicity of it, and the like not going as fast as you can, but like finding that stable place where you can make it all those miles. And I enjoy it.
Well, some of it, you're a mother of two as well. So sometimes the training is also sort of like your meditation, your you time.
Oh, that is like my time. Yes. Like my husband will go play golf for 4 hours and I will go on, a 3-hour run, or I'll go ride my bike. And that is my time. Like, yeah, absolutely. During COVID, when we were all, we're all like, my only time by myself was on my bike or while I was running or swimming. And yes, that is my time.
What did you do growing up for sports?
Gymnastics. So gymnastics was, lived and breathed gymnastics every morning before school. Got to a pretty high, like elite level. There was some newspaper article that said I was an Olympic hopeful at once, but that was my claim to fame back then. I definitely did not make the Olympics. I was at the same gymnastics meet like as the gymnasts that maybe made the 1996 Olympic team, but I was not competitive with them, but I was like at the same meets as them. So,
You're also 5'5" too, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's not the typical height of a
Oh my
gymnast.
goodness. I feel like I grew maybe after I stopped, honestly. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it wasn't, I mean, I got decently high level, but obviously not much further than that.
How did you end up joining the military? How did that end up working? Was it 9/11 that pushed you to join?
No, I was already in ROTC at the time. So I grew up just, realizing early on, just I love our country, realize how lucky we are, love the flag, the red, the white, and the blue. Kind of as I grew older, some military personnel, they had their uniform on, the flag patch on their shoulder, and thought that's what I want to do. So sophomore year of college, I joined the ROTC program, which is basically a program that when you graduate, you get commissioned as an Army officer. And then senior year of college is when 9/11 happened, but I was already on track to, be commissioned as an officer. I just kind of obviously drastically changed my path.
And was that going to be a career path for you, or was that going to be kind of a shorter period and then you move on to something else?
It's hard to say. I owed at least 4 years of active duty and then 4 to 6 years of like active duty reserves, basically. It's hard to say though. I mean, I don't know. It was cut short. So would I have kept going? I mean, I don't know if we'll ever know that.
Right, exactly. But you hadn't had a plan to say, this is it, I'm going all the
No,
way.
no, I don't know if I knew that at that point. Yeah.
How much did your military experience shape who you are as an athlete, as a Paralympian?
I think they have values that kind of, parallel each other. So being part of a team, I mean, in the military, I had a platoon and they were my team. Being part of something, bigger than yourself. I mean, the Paralympics, like, yes, it's an individual sport that I'm in, but I'm so much part of Team USA, like wanting to like be part of that. The camaraderie, the hard work. I mean, in the military, like you had jobs you had to get done and you just did it. Like you didn't question it, you just did it. And it's little things like, being on time. Like for me, 5 minutes early is on time. Like being late is just, so it's like the little things like that of like my coach asked me to do something and I mean, I'm just going to do it. Like if I don't do it, then something is really like off in my day or in my life, like not to do it. Like he puts it on my schedule and I just do it, like no questions asked. So I think those things kind of, parallel the military a little bit.
How much do you have that interaction with your coach? You said he gives you an assignment, you do the assignment. How much
Yep.
back and forth is there of like, okay, well, here's the assignment. I was like, okay, that's the assignment, but this is what I'm trying to do. This is what I feel like I need. How much back and forth between the two of you is there?
It's daily. So he and I saw, like we swam this morning and he was on deck with us. My weeks are busy. I mean, I travel a decent amount. With my kids' schedules and trying to get everything in. So it's almost like every week we talk about like what the week schedule is going to look like. He was on board with Boston. He's been my coach. Derek is his name, Derek Williamson. He's been, training me into Boston. He's just an amazing coach. He's an amazing person. Like he's a friend, and I've worked with him now this is my 3rd year. So he knows my style, like what works for me, what doesn't work for me, how to manage, juggle everything else in my life. And it's just a really good fit.
For you, it seems like, you're 42 years old right now.
Mhm.
That's public knowledge. So
I'm good with that. I'm a proud 42-year-old. We're good.
perfect. But looking at that, the mother of two, but coming into the sport, you joined a group that you probably hadn't really considered all that much, and joining the Paralympic group,
Yep.
but have been really visible, probably one of the most visible athletes in the Paralympic space in terms of working with some of the sponsors. I did see, it's nice when these sponsorships line up, right? Where if you have an Oreo addiction that you can actually work with
Right.
Nabisco.
Chapstick. Same. Yep.
Stuff that you actually use. How did you develop your voice as an athlete and as an advocate?
I think it almost came just naturally. Like, honestly, after I lost my leg and then like got into athletics, co-founded Dare to Try, it wasn't like, it just was things that I was passionate about. And I mean, I wanted to do. And I don't think I realized along the way that it was becoming this kind of advocacy role to, yes, with Dare to Try, the whole mission is to help other athletes with physical disabilities. And like my platform, if you say, like, to show, myself or others, that doesn't matter if you have one leg or two, you can still get out there and like dream big and have these, like, it doesn't, like, we're still people, we're athletes also. Like, none of that, it just kind of came naturally. I don't know if that makes sense. It just happened. And I think, being first approached by a sponsor, you kind of think, wait a minute, like, what do you mean? Like the life that I live is like, why is that even of interest to anybody? But then to realize that it can be, and it can maybe, show others that, we have a choice on how we live our lives, and we can still, whatever comes our way, we can get through it and end up better on the other side.
But you're also marrying a lot of things too, aren't you? I mean, just with the military side of things, obviously we've seen some of the photos where we've got you in your military garb on one half of the photo and in your triathlon garb on the other side with the prosthetic leg, but it's interesting because like you went to your first games and weren't in the, you did well, but you weren't in the medals in your first games. And some of that is like, okay, what kind of a platform do you have? But it seems like for you, it's the success, but it's a lot of everything. And did that happen in the beginning?
What's that? Say that again.
Did that happen in the beginning? When did that start happening?
I don't think so. I mean, when I swam in Beijing in 2008, it was, well, number one, the Paralympics had not as much notoriety as it does now. I mean, the Paralympic movement has come so far from 2008 to 2020, which is great. I mean, the growth is fantastic. So back then it was just, I don't know, I was just Melissa who lost her leg in a war, and here I am competing in the Paralympics. And I like looking back, I think like to 2008, that almost becomes part of the story where in 2008, like I didn't do well. I didn't even make finals. But these moments of, I ended up being the flag bearer in closing ceremonies in Beijing. And that kind of, at the time, it was amazing. And it's still incredible to look back on, but who knew that was going to become like such a part of the story? Like, it wasn't the medals end. So then, look forward to 2016 and you're part of the USA sweep. Like, it just, the way that it's all worked out is just almost baffling. I don't know. Like, I never would have thought that would be like my own life.
Right. And you probably didn't have the plan. I mean, I looked at like,
not.
For me, getting back into skiing was representative of my recovery. Sure. Like if I could ski again, then I was recovered. And there was a part of it about doing it well. Right. And if I could do it well enough that I could go and share that time with my friends and family and maybe win a little bit here and there or whatever. But was that the way that you looked at Beijing? Was Beijing sort of like a one-off, or was it the start of a career?
No, to me, it was going to be a one-off. I mean, when I got done, I learned about the Paralympics while I was still at Walter Reed, like recovering, like probably 2 months after I lost my leg. I learned about the Paralympics and just kind of sat there like jaw on the ground, like, oh my gosh, I dreamt of being an Olympian in gymnastics. I kind of have a second chance. And wearing a Team USA uniform, very different, but similar uniform that I wore in the military, like you're still representing the same thing. And decided very early on in my recovery that I wanted to be a Paralympian. And 2008 came, I made the team, didn't do very well, but I finished those games, went back home and thought, well, that was fun, and then you get a call the next week and they're like, hey, you want to do a triathlon? And sure. And then come to find out that's like the next passion is triathlon. And then it became a Paralympic sport. So yeah, it was never going to be, 3-time Paralympian. No way. No. That was not the plan.
How did that first conversation go? Do you remember when somebody told you about the Paralympics? I mean, you're used to lying in bed as somebody tells you about Paralympics.
It was, so it was at Walter Reed. And so Walter Reed they were incredible at the hospital there. That's at the time in 2004, it's where basically all the severely wounded soldiers went to like do their rehab. And we would have like visitors, we would have activities, like anything we could do to kind of like pass the time and to like show us what we could still do. And there was a sign in the hallway, this small sign that said, come learn about the US Paralympics. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll go to this. And this man, you may know him, John Register is his name.
Sure.
And he was the one that came that day. And if you know John, he has a way, he has this like booming voice. And and I sat in this room and he was like talking to, maybe a dozen of us are in this conference room. And it's like, he's talking to me. It felt like he was talking just to me. And he's like, if you train hard enough, like if you dedicate yourself to a sport, then you can compete on the world's biggest athletic stage and you can represent a country, you defend it over in Iraq. And I was like, okay, I'm in. Like, what do? I'm in, So it was like of this very like, I don't know, just knowing John and his passion behind it and just how we can talk about things. It was like a no brainer. I left there knowing that, all right, I'm going to be a Paralympian, whatever it takes, I'm going to do it.
Right. And obviously he'd gone through the same route that you had to a certain extent, right? I mean, he was a sprinter at, I believe, Arkansas, so Division I sprinter, or not a sprinter, but a hurdler.
Yep. And exactly.
Ruptured his femoral artery, I believe. And I mean, so he's lucky to be around, lost his leg as a result, came back as a long jumper, and I think 100 meters as well. But and also like a preacher's kid too, right? So I think
I know it was like all the stars aligned in that little room right there. I mean, I credit him with my desire to want to be a Paralympian. I mean, it's great.
Did you kind of like wait? Is it sort of like that movie scene where everybody files out and you go to talk to John? You're like, hey, John, I really want to do this. Like, what do I
do? Honestly, I don't even remember. I just know that it was then on the radar. There was a program for veterans that were, potentially Paralympic hopefuls. I mean, I was so far from even a hopeful at that point. Like my times were way up here. They had become like way down here, but they took a chance on me and I was able to move out to the Olympic Training Center. And that, that got me to the games. That got my times fast enough to qualify.
So how quickly did you move to the training center? This sounds like you left Walter Reed and you went to the training center. Is this how it worked?
I left the hospital in April of 2005. So I was kind of there for a year, went back to school in the field of prosthetics. So learning how to fit other amputees with artificial limbs, moved to Chicago in 2007 to do my residency in order to become certified in the field of prosthetics. But then I moved in the end of 2007 out to the Olympic Training Center. So there was a little bit in there. A little bit of time, a little bit.
It happened pretty quickly, but
it did, yeah.
Did that make it easier for you because you started to see a path as you were leaving the hospital? I mean, that's one of the challenges, right? That you have this traumatic injury and you think, okay, well, my life as I've known it has stopped.
Yeah.
I
think so.
How do I move forward? Yeah.
Yeah, I think, after being in that meeting with John, knowing that, okay, I'm going to be a Paralympian somehow. I knew that in 2008, there was a Beijing Paralympics. I started to swim. I went back to school for prosthetics, started to swim. It just so happened that there was a Paralympic swim meet in Minnesota where I was going to school. So again, all these things are like aligning. I go to that Paralympic swim meet, I get classified, see where my times are and how much like I need to improve. But at the same time, you kind of get your name out there a little bit because it was my first meet. So then I was kind of on the radar to be able to, be a part of this program that was starting at the Olympic Training Center. So everything just kind of happened and it kind of just worked out really well.
When you said that you were thinking about going to Beijing in 2008, so lost your leg in 2004, go to Beijing in 2008, what was the reaction from people when you said that 2008 this is the plan?
Yeah. My family and friends always been so supportive. They're like, oh, okay. Half of them didn't even know what the Paralympics was either. And it was like, okay, go for it. Like, I don't even know what you're talking about, but sure. Like, if that's going to make you feel good, do it. But I remember, when I left the hospital, I moved to Minnesota to go to school for prosthetics. I know I needed to join a swim team and I would call like these coaches and I'd be like, hi, my name's Melissa. I just lost my leg over in Iraq. I want to go to the 2008 Paralympic Games. Like, can you get me there? And there was often this like, don't even know who you are, what you're talking about. Sorry, like look elsewhere. And finally this coach was like, sure, come let's give it a shot. And that's who I ended up training with in Minnesota. My first swim team, I was the only one missing a leg. And yeah, but that kind of started things out.
Okay, that started things out. And sometimes it's easy to look at this and say, okay, she lost her leg. So then she has to figure out how to swim without a leg. How
Yeah.
good a swimmer were you? Because swimming is that kind of sport that if you are not doing it technically well, you can work really, really hard and go absolutely nowhere.
Right. Agreed. I had swam growing up. I mean, I had swam like when you're really young, like on a swim, on like a kid's swim team. But I knew how to do all the strokes. Obviously, like swimming is a very much an upper body sport. Does the kick help? Absolutely. But it's not like I'm going to swim in circles, without the kick. So it was mainly an upper body sport. I had to learn how to go off the blocks, do flip turns, push off the wall, but it's not like I was relearning the stroke. And I'd been like a decent swimmer. I mean, nothing to write home about, but I could swim. Like I knew how to swim. So I wasn't so much starting from scratch. It was just kind of learning how to do it faster and with one leg.
Huh. Okay. So that makes a whole lot of sense. And then you ended up going into freestyle. Was freestyle really because yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously you say the kick doesn't make any difference until you talk about doing the breaststroke, and then the kick makes a huge difference, right?
agreed. Yes, it does. But if you watch the Paralympic swimming, it's interesting. Like freestyle and butterfly, you look at the blocks, it's typically like a lower limb amputees. Like doing breaststroke, I mean, I could do it, but it's hard. Like it's not, but you look at freestyle and it's pretty much mostly lower limb athletes. Well, this is when I did it in 2008. This could have changed. But you look at a breaststroke like event with 8 lanes, and probably the majority of them are missing a limb like above like an upper limb extremity. So yeah, you kind of freestyle. I did some butterfly as well, but freestyle I kind of gravitated towards.
Did you like freestyle before, like when you were swimming as a little kid, or did you just swim
Yeah,
everything?
I think I probably freestyle. Yeah.
Okay. Which freestyle makes the most sense in a lot of ways.
Sure.
It's the stroke that most of us learn
That learn to
anyway.
start with. Yeah.
It's what everybody learns. So
Right.
so that was your initiation. You found a coach who would take you. What was like the first day of practice like?
I don't even remember. That was so long ago. I remember, so I'm the only amputee. They kind of put me in the lane on my own at the end.
Oh, a lane on your own, because that's the way
Yeah,
swimming works, where you have your lane for your
kind of circle.
workout, and
Um,
everybody's kind of.
yeah, there was another athlete there. I don't remember if she was there when I got there, but spinal cord injury in a wheelchair. Actually, we shared a lane. Her and I shared a lane. Kind of self-conscious at first, like taking my leg off in front of everyone else, but that maybe lasted a day, because honestly, like I had to get over that pretty quickly if this was going to be a thing. So got over that pretty quickly. I don't remember. All I know is that my times like were getting faster, and that's what mattered. So that's kind of what I remember.
And faster, I mean, you're saying faster, but like not by hundreds and tenths of a second, but like by chunks of minutes faster, kind of.
Yes, they were. But I mean, remember, I was very slow when I started. So you put any sort of time into anything that you're pretty slow at, and I mean, you'll improve pretty quickly. I would feel that similar to most people, I would think.
You were starting at zero, or maybe below zero in some ways,
Right.
like coming out of the rehab and
Yeah.
surgery and all of those things. When did you get married?
So I was married. I'm in my second marriage right now. We'll say second and final marriage. So I was married when I went over to Iraq. I was married at the time. My husband was over there with me. He came after I got hurt. He came back with me. We were at Walter Reed together, and we got divorced in 2000. Gosh,
You were Walter Reed together. Was he injured as well?
No, but it was this kind of first time incident where when I lost my leg and I was in the Iraq, when I was in the emergency room, like in Baghdad, he was actually at my bedside before I even woke up from that like life-saving surgery. So it had never really happened where a spouse had been there. So he was able to come back home to the US with me. And then he was granted the ability he got a job in DC, and he stayed with me when I was doing my rehab at Walter Reed. So he got me through a lot of like I credit him a lot with where I am today. Just kind of Paralympic, sure, let's do it, like go for it, that type of thing. So we got divorced in 2010. And then I am now married to Brian, and we got married in 2014, 15, 2015. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm asking you like,
Yes.
So we've been married 7 years. Yeah.
Okay. 7 years. And your children are from this marriage, from your second marriage.
Yep. So so Brian and I, 4 and 7.
4 and 7. So how much do they understand what you're doing?
My 7-year-old is starting maybe to, but at the same time, like they grew up, they've grown up with me as we used to joke that they would think every mom doesn't have a leg, and they'd go to their friend's house and be like, wait a minute, like, why does your mom have 2 legs? So it was, to them, I'm like, I'm mom, right? I'm mom and I don't have a leg. I mean, they know, like, they know my running leg. They know they know all my legs. They bring me my legs. They help me out with them if I need it. They know that they see me on like TV sometimes. They know that like Tokyo, they had this big watch party and they were watching me race on TV. Like, so they've seen all that, but it's almost like normal to them. That's just like what I do and like who I am. It's nothing at all out of the ordinary. It's just like normal, which I kind of like it like that, and it kind of adds this extra dimension where if I go have a workout, and it's not a great workout, well, I come home and my kids don't care. Like they were asking me if they can have another popsicle. Like they don't care if my workout's good or bad. Like they're going to be in Boston with me on Monday and guarantee I'm going to finish that race. And one of them is going to run over and try to jump up so I can hold them, which I would gladly do, but after 26.2 miles, I don't know how I'll be able to do that very well. So like they understand it in some sense, but again, I'm just mom that's going to go run a race that's 26 miles and they're just going to watch along the way. Like they don't really understand like how kind of cool it is, I guess.
You've been on a long journey. Is there anything that you hope that they take from what you've done, anything that you're trying to teach them from your experiences?
I think as parents, you obviously want your kids to like grow up and be kind people and good people and, and to treat people well and to, go for their dreams. But I think being a mom that, has a disability, it's like, we're kind of showing them firsthand that like, we all have something unique about us. I mean, mine's much more visible. Like I don't have a leg, but I think you could ask anybody, like, there's something about every person that makes them different. And instead of like running from it, like in embracing it and like choosing to accept it, if that's who you are and just to be proud of it. So my hope is that they take that away, like whatever, it's okay to be different. Like you can embrace it and just be your own person and be happy with that and live a very full active life.
And still shoot for these big goals and have the grit to get through and make them a reality. Well, that sounds like grit, resilience, big goals seems like a really appropriate way to get you out of here and on your way to Boston. So thank you so much for joining us, Melissa.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. Yep. 1 week. It'll be great. But thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I look forward to seeing you out there. Thank you to all of you for joining us. We hope that you've enjoyed it. The greatest gift that you can give us is to tell your friends. Tell your friends to tune in. Tell your friends to check it out. Like us, follow us. This will be everywhere you find podcasts. And please find a way to follow us and find a way to find the next great story. So Melissa, thank you. And we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us. Please subscribe to Chris Waddell Living It for more stories on the adaptive community, the Paralympics, artists, athletes, entrepreneurs, experts in the experience of being human. Also follow us on Spotify, Apple, Facebook, and Instagram. I look forward to seeing you next week.